Okay, so the other text or the other idea that we want to talk about in this third Sunday of Advent is sort of picking up on this idea of apocalypse. And I, of course, like to talk about apocalypse as, destruction and the whole apocalyptic literature, the loss of the old world, good news because of the coming of the new world. But you, I think, rightly emphasize the idea of apocalypse as unveiling, right?
Yes.
And I think, being revealed what's underneath. And I think this idea of unveiling really ties in with this Sunday, this Joy Sunday.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so apocalypse of joy. It's still
joy.
Still Gaudete Sunday, and we're talking about unveiling. And I think unveiling reveals to us what is joyful about the apocalypse.
It reveals the hidden truth that is otherwise kept from us in the world as it is.
Yes, and what that hidden truth is, what is unveiled, is what the world is, what the world really is, and what God is,
Yes.
and a little bit what we are. So what is unveiled in the world? And I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, which is, John's question.
Yeah.
And we talked about kind of the despair where that question comes out of before, where John says, "Are you the one?" And Jesus says, "Go and tell John what you see and hear. The blind receive your sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have good news brought to them." And, we talked a little bit about about John's emotional response to that.
Which is a perfectly valid response.
Perfectly valid response. But I also think, this is that unveiling, that secret, that, that transformation, because this is not what John expected.
So do you find joy in things that did not go the way you expect?
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it, we do have to go back to last week and hope, right? That there is a hope that one day I will not be poor. One day I will be able to see all of those things. And that hope has, up till now, been unfulfilled. And so to a certain extent, the joy is that fulfillment of that hope, which is the Isaiah text, right? This is Babylonian exile. And in Babylonian exile, they're being told, you will see the glory of God and make firm the feeble knees. This is a thing which is in bad shape, but there's a promise that it will be made better.
Yes.
And this promise is then made incarnate. This is why we're talking about this in Advent, right?
Right.
It is made incarnate in the life, body, and history of Jesus, which becomes the life, body, and history of the church. Our job is to go out and fulfill hope, and that brings joy.
But how we fulfill hope, and this goes back to this idea of unveiling and what is unexpected for John. I don't think what was unexpected for John was necessarily this idea of, the poor, have good news, the lame walk. Yeah, I don't think that was the part that was disappointing to John. I think what was disappointing to John was that's not the way he wanted it, right? That John expects, even now the axe is lying at the root of trees. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. His winnowing fork is in his hand. He will burn the chaff with unquenchable fire, right? So John doesn't want this 25-year-old guy, 30-year-old guy, I guess 30, wandering around in the desert.
No.
Healing people. John wants the finger.
Come down and change everything by divine fiat.
He wants
cataclysm.
He wants cataclysm. He wants divine retribution. He wants the axe lying at the root of the tree.
Okay.
Right? John wants this this world of repent or else.
So is the joy in there that doesn't happen? That the axe does not come for those who deserve it because, well, who deserves it?
none of us. Yeah, I mean, all of us.
Right.
I mean, because you know, I'm just sort of thinking, you know, we talked before about John's disappointment, you know, and I think that some of his disappointment must have been because I thought they were gonna break me out. You know, so you know, I did prison ministry for a while, and you also did ministry in a home for we used to call it criminally insane, and I forget what it's called now.
It's now State Hospital.
State Hospital.
But it very much was a place where
Criminally insane.
people who were strictly not criminals
Yeah.
were housed, but this was because at their trial they were found not guilty due to reason of temporary insanity.
Or permanent insanity.
We have to hope it's temporary.
Yeah. But
It's very much a prison.
Yeah.
And it very, very much is
Yeah.
a prison in every way that matters.
But what was interesting to me, you know, and I'm a white girl from the burbs, right? I'm kind of, I was surprised at how apocalyptic the thinking was of so many of the guys in jail. There was a coming, there was everything. And Catherine, who you met, my friend from seminary, who I you know, she and I were talking about it once. She goes, "Oh, it's because they don't want to serve their sentences." And I think that there was something that was true about that. There was this sense that this world is terrible. I'm not really succeeding in this world. This is, you know, you know. And if you're in jail in California, you're or probably anywhere, the chances of your having a thriving life when you get out are pretty low unless you're there for a white collar crime, right?
Yeah.
And these guys weren't. This was, you know, county jail. So these were the people that did not see hope in this world,
Yeah.
right? And they had this apocalyptic hope. They're in prison but they didn't want to have to wait for it. They wanted boom,
Wow.
thunder, you know, and if it,
Oh, yes.
you know, yeah. So this,
Although- It showed up all the time.
yeah.
And there's a part of it that you have to separate this is a institution and this is a prison.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to tease those two threads out for me. But if you saw it as well, then I'm sure that that's the case. That there is this
Yeah.
hope that everything's going to change in a twinkling of an eye, in an instant, right? But there were also people that I knew who had great and wonderful hope that they were going to get out.
Yeah.
And so there was a guy, and I tell this story because it is an interesting story. He'd killed his mother, and that's why he was in there. And he will tell you, you know, you kind of have to be a little crazy to kill your own mother. And I'd say, well, we're in the right place. But one of the things he told me towards the end of our time there was that he was getting ready to get out. And this man had been in this place for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
He had been an accountant before things happened, and he ended up in this particular place. And so all of his stuff is out of date. He has no family left because he doesn't have any family, but also who's going to take him in after he was in prison for this long?
It's been 40 years too.
Yeah. He had this great hope, I'm going to get outside of these walls and it's going to be great and put my life back together. And all I could think was, no, you're not.
Yeah.
The hope of this great
That's
change.
a false hope.
Well, and I hope that it wasn't, right? Even I now have that hope that it was, that he got out and he got on with his life and everything was great, but I could not see how that could happen.
And there's a difference between guys and gals in the mental hospital and in county jail. In county jail, you got a sentence,
Yeah.
right? You know, and it's like, well, maybe you can get out early, but you know you got an end date.
Yes.
And so yeah, I think that, you know, for good or ill, if the end date is 40 years from now, it's a little bit different than 2 years, and I got to keep my head down, and I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that time. So you have this sense that, you know, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, dragging this back to the idea of this unveiling, right? None of us know what's going to happen to him. No one of us know what's going to happen in this experience of they finally get out. Are they going to integrate back into the world as it is? Are they going to have a good life? Are they going to have a failure of a life? We don't know, but that hope is there, right? Mm-hmm. Does that hope get fulfilled? And is there things that we can do to make sure that that hope does get fulfilled? Can we actually work on rehabilitation and making these people live a life that no longer returns them back to this place?
Right.
And so we have to be willing to say this world is different than it appears. Because it appears these guys are going to be in trouble. These guys are going to be never stop getting in and out of the prison system their entire lives. That's the way that it is. Or can we say, God says we are to forgive people, to make them better, to hopefully they can be sanctified and do better in this future world, and actually believe it.
Here's the problem I have with that. I mean, so when we're talking about this sort of,
have we irretrievably wandered down a path that we need to not go down?
well, because I think part of it is you can have hope for that person, but I think too often, and this is what I found with the guys, their apocalyptic hope was that they would succeed in this world.
Yeah.
And that's fine for you, because maybe the second coming isn't tomorrow. But if it is, it's not going to look like being released into this world. It's going to be released into another one. And I think that's where the unveiling comes in, right? You have this unveiling, this idea of, we talked about this before, healing, restoration, liberation, good news for the poor, the blind see, the lame walk, etc. I think that was not the surprise, that was what a surprise was to John, right? The surprise was not what this world was going to look like. The surprise was how it was going to happen. Right?
It's unevenly applied at this moment.
Well, no, because John wanted it to happen by fire.
Yeah.
John wanted it to happen in this great apocalyptic winnowing fork. We're gonna, and an apocalyptic in the Old Testament sense, we're gonna smash their babies up against the rocks, and then there will be liberation. Right? It's good news. And Jesus says, and this is the part that I think is hard even for those of us who do think, yeah, maybe the world could be a better place, right? How do we achieve that? Jesus says, we're not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get up, I'm going to go out in the desert, I'm going to walk around, and I'm going to touch people one person at a time. Maybe 5,000 at a time if they're all hungry, right? But I'm going to go out and I'm going to do things. This is the way that it's done. And John is probably face-to-face, retail politics, one person, even one at a time, changing hearts, one at a time. And John is looking at that going, well, that's going to take forever.
And he's not wrong.
He's not, it's going to take forever, and it seems like a lot of work. Wouldn't it?
It would be so much better. Maybe
you're not asking for advice, God, but if you were, I would say it would be a lot faster if you lose those little lightning hands of yours and just start zapping the bad guys.
Okay, but I always make the argument that the Genesis 3 story with Adam and Eve is about deciding, I know better than God, we should do it my way.
Oh, yeah.
And so John is doing exactly that one more time.
Well, we don't know exactly what his response is.
Sure.
He might have gone, okay, well, I'm not going to wait around for that. And God is like, just as well. So again, the surprising thing about the apocalypse, and this is the surprising thing about the incarnation, is it's not, this big booming voice, except for occasionally. It's not thunder and lightning and deluge. It's a baby.
And it's not a general with a sword in his hand.
It's not a general. It's a baby.
It's a baby.
It's a baby, right? And so what is unveiled in the apocalypse that's surprising, the great unveiling, is not what this new world looks like. Because I think in our hearts we know what's surprising is how we get there.
And that is, ask anyone who's been at the birth of one, they are a joy.
So I think this is this idea of the unveiling, but what's interesting to me in that is it's not just that what is surprising, that what is unveiled is not just what will happen, but how will happen. But in the how, then we discover a little bit about who God is. And so that unveiling is, right, so we already talked about it, in the apocalypse unveils false world, false gods, those things that we love instead of God. But then it also reveals what God's power is really like. And that is, we think about, as human beings, we think about power as power over. If I can force you to do something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And if I have a bigger gun than you, if I have a bigger missile than you, if I have a bigger army than you, that's power.
Yeah.
And power is something different. And the scene that I was thinking about this as I was reflecting about this was Schindler's List.
Yeah.
And the Amon Gatz refines, there was no way he was going to get an Oscar for that, because man, he was an evil man that you almost feel for, except he was so cruel. And there's like so many really brilliant scenes in that. It's just a brilliant movie. But the scene where they're Schindler is his drinking buddy, and he's his drinking buddy because that helps him save people.
Yeah.
He knows who's
Everything done with a purpose.
Yeah, he knows who's on the chopping block. But Ammon is drunk, and he's like, talking about all these people out there. They're all afraid of me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he is literally the God that that John is looking for, right? Because he gets up in the morning, he walks out on the balcony, and then he just randomly shoots a couple of people from his balcony because he can.
And that's power.
And that's power to him. That's power. He says, I can, people, they fear me, and I know they fear me because I'm powerful, because I have life and death over them.
It's very Pilate. I have the power to free you, and I have the power to kill you.
It's very this world.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And Schindler gives what I think, and I'll try to see if I can find a link to this scene. I'm sure it's somewhere available online. But, Schindler says that's not power, right? Power is, when the man is dragged in front of the king and he's terrified, and the king, because he knows that the king can say yes, off with his head.
Exactly.
Says, but that's not power. That's just the king obeying the law.
Yep.
That's the king going along with it. Power is if the king looks at the man and says, I pardon you. Mercy is power, right?
Yeah.
Because violence is the way of the world. Mercy is something that's more powerful than violence. And I think this is something that, you can talk about, different social movements in this country, but this idea, that turning the other cheek, that is powerful. Forgiveness is powerful. It's much more powerful than retribution.
Yeah. Which, again, shows up in parables, even.
Yes.
Parable of the
Yes.
10,000 talents.
Yes.
The man who owes 10,000 shows up before the king, says, have mercy on me, and the king says, okay.
Yes, that's power.
That's power.
That's God's power.
And then the man goes and finds somebody who owes him a few hundred denarii, and he says, pay what you owe. And does not learn that lesson about power
Yes.
is in
Because
forgiveness.
he's a small man.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that, when we talk about unveiling, and, because go ahead.
We've clouded our eyes to believe that physical might is power, that a power to direct and control is real power.
Yeah.
And real power is in liberation.
Yes.
And that liberation, that pardoning, that forgiveness of those things that bind us, that's power. To free somebody, that's real power. And this goes all the way back in our biblical stories, all the way back to Egypt, right? Mm-hmm. Does the Pharaoh have real power?
No, he has to obey the law.
Exactly. He obeys the system that he's built in, where he has to keep those slaves or else. And God says liberation is what power looks like. We are setting these people free.
And I think that this is what's surprising in the unveiling. This, for John,
Yeah.
is not the unveiling that this is what the new world looks like, but this is how we get there, right? That John wants God to zap people from heaven. Okay, he doesn't really want that. But,
that's you're wandering into that Greek Zeus thing.
But he does have this winnowing fork.
Oh, yes.
Which, I'm just trying to look, so God, I can say other stuff about the power and stuff, but I think I did have some, there it is, that that there is a sense in which we can say that maybe there is a little bit of winnowing, and I did have who we really are. Oh, there is a bit of reaping. Because there are, I mean, this is in the apocalypse, maybe not necessarily in these texts, although maybe there is. You know, there's a difference between impatient that demands, you know, and maybe we're gonna start wandering into James now. But there are, the winnowing is people who will continue to choose this world, who will continue to choose the old world of power.
Even once the veil is taken away and you can see where true power is, you say, yeah, I still want this one.
Yeah, even when they see this carpenter wandering in the desert.
Yeah.
And he walks up to them and they're like, yeah, no.
Well, and the one thing that he does over and over in all the healing stories is he begins with forgiveness, right?
Yes.
And so in forgiveness, the woman who is bent over in half, he forgives her sins and then brings her upright.
Yes.
And in response to that, the people who are there, the leaders of the synagogue, get bent out of shape themselves. That's the actual Greek word, right?
Yeah.
And so there are those people who see this gift, this moment of freedom, of liberation, that power can be in forgiveness, and say, you can't forgive people's sins.
Yes.
That's not the way it's done. That's not what power looks like.
Because like John, what they want, you know, when you think about it,
Yeah.
right? So you think about the scales of justice, right? And the sin, you know, knocks the scales off, right?
Sure.
So that there's sin here. And, you know, what John wants,
He wants retribution.
he wants retribution to add weight to this side, right? You know, like
Yeah.
that. So that's the way we'll punishment.
Punishment.
Right,
Is
and what
the
God
opposite
says
of
is,
this.
no, I forgive, and that also balances the scales of justice, and that is not the way the world thinks.
No.
So, what is unveiled in the apocalypse? We reveal in the apocalypse what the new world will be like, but more importantly, it is revealed how this new world will come about, which is not by fire, but
And it's not quick.
and it's not quick. It's gradual. It's
It's face to face,
It's
one
face
by
to face.
one.
It's gentle. It's sweeping. It's merciful. It's peaceful. It's just. It happens in that very slow way. And so for those of us who are somewhat of an impatient sort, that can be a bit of a hard sell.